Hey everyone, welcome back to 3D Code Academy. In this tutorial, we will create a simple professional eye rig in a blender with a smooth eye tracking controls, fast and beginner friendly. So, open Blender and let's get started. First thing, we need to prepare our head mesh ready for rigging. So, we'll start rigging the head and last rigging the features that's needed for the facial. So the first thing, when we're going there, we switch off the overlays and I go to the edit mode and I select the vertex of the body and I press Shift S and I go to the cursor to the selected and I move and align the mesh by adding the armatures. So I press the Shift A and I add a single bone and I try to align to follow the mesh. And in order to see through, I go back there for the bone properties. And I turn on the infrared visibility so we can see through. And I try to align the bone to follow the head mesh. So I press G there to move. And then I extrude it to the head to add a head bone. And I switch off the snap. And I extrude the jaw. And I can still connect the lip down. That's the lip marking. And I can extrude again a bone for the top lip. Okay, that will be enough for the main heads bone. So I line it to follow the mesh. That's a basic head bones. So now we'll go to add the bones for the eye. That's we call the eyeball head. So by now let's first rename by press F2 and I call that neck bone. And I press F2 also to call a jaw. And F2 to call the lip down. And F2 also for lip up. And lastly we go for the head. I can press F2 and then name that head. Okay, that's enough for the naming. Okay, I go to the eye. So, sorry. And I can split the screen so you can see to the other side of the screen. And go there to the I select this and go to the edit mode. I press Shift H for one hide the other, and I select that eyeball and align the mass to the center of the gravity. I select the loop of the eyeball and I press the Shift S and I cursor to select it to allow the 3D point to be at the middle of the eyeball. So now I'll go back to the armature and I go to the edit mode. I press tab for switching, and then I go for Shift A to add an armature to that 3D cursor point, so that bone, it can be the eyeball bone. So I press number 3 to the side view, and I align that bone tail to follow the direction of an eye. So I can press F2 and I'll call that F2 and I call that I rig.l. That's good. So I can come back there to select the body, and I select the eye, and shift select the bone, and I go to bind with the empty weight. So I press Ctrl P and we wait. After waiting, we go to see the vertex group we have created after binding. So I go to the edit mode and I can select the eyeball. So first select the eyeball and I go to the editing mode. So we needed to bind those those. So make sure that the weight has the bones has the weight. So we go for the so I selected the head mesh and last selected the head bone, so I can assign the weight. So the weight will be assigned to the head bone. So when I select first the armature and last select the mesh and I go to the weight paint, it see that has received a full weight of for that bone. So the bone has the weight. Now you can see how it's react. So let's see the settings. We are going to see that we turn on the auto normalize. We turn on the auto normalize. That has a significant impact for the sharing bone weight. So later you can see how it's helpful with the weight painting. And if we have struggling for the weight painting, we have a tutorial for weight painting, so I can give the link in the description below. So I selected the neck bone and I try to have a weight for the neck. So I go in the setting there. I want to change the brush to the projection from the sphere. So we go for the fall off right there, and I say I select project, so that the weight will be transferred to other parts, to other side there. It can pass through the weight. So we can see when I rotate my mesh. So nice. So if I rotate, you can see that the influence of weight has passed it to other side. That's the meaning of projection. I selected the bone, jawbone, and applying to the weight. So for the area that meets the influence, I press shift and then blur out so that it can share the influence of the bone. Like the meaning of using that auto-normalize. So the bone will be related to subtract the weight of the other. The meaning of auto-normalize. So I press shift for the area that they have a sharing of weights. Okay, I have to keep adding the weight. And smoke out the weight. Okay. I selected the bone. You can see now it's subtracted all those weights have been reducted to the adding bones weight, as you can see. That's the meaning of auto-normalize. Very powerful technique. So that's good. Let me select this. The eyeball. See, that's have a bad weight. So let's go and try to fix it. Okay, let me go to my collection and I try to see which one has a problem. So I will switch off the unwanted mesh. So I left with the eyeball left and I try to see it. When I move it, it seems that has a wrong weights. So let's rename nicely. Let's call that inner eye to L. Okay. So let me go to fix the weight. So I'll select the eyeball and I will go to the vets group and I select the eye rig.l. I go to the mesh and I select all and assign the weight. So you can see this when I go to the pose mode and I can select it. See, it's full weighted. That is what we wanted. Okay, now you can see that's the bone. Control the eyeball. That's what we need there. The next thing we want to create now, we need to create the eyelid control. So we create the eyelid for the top and the eyelid for the down. So I go to the edit mode with the selection of the bone and I can press Shift A and add another armature. And when I go to the side view, I will align to the eyeball. So, and I press F2 and I name that the bone. It will be the top eyelid.L. Okay, I can extrude the bone and I can call that by press F2 and I call the a down eyelid.L. So that's what's up. So the next thing, I need to go back to the object mode and I can select the mesh, and next select the armature, and I wait with the empty group, Control P, and I can select the armature, shift select the mesh, and I go to the weight, and we go to assign the weight to the eyelid control that we added in lately. So up Alt, and I can see it has 0 weight. So now I can start adding the weight that can control the top eyelid. So the settings are good. So maybe I can switch off the projector to the sphere so we cannot influence the other side by the weights. So I turn on the symmetry zone. So I can press N to close the tab, and I can still start adding the weight. So you can see I can hide the head bone, sorry, and I can assign the wireframe by allowing the overlay, so we can add the weight, follow the topology. So I start adding the weight. I'll keep adding the weight. That's the area of the influence. Okay, I think that's enough. Okay, well, that's good. And I can still keep adding for the lower part. That's as much more influence. When I press R to see how it's influence the area, I see that's good. You can see when I rotate it along X. Okay, I can select the lower eyelid, the down one, and I start to add the weight. Okay, I can rotate and try to add. Okay, I press the RTH to retain the unhide bones. So we go. I switch off the overlay for a bit. Okay. Well, I can remove the wireframe only. I can go to the pose mode. I can try to see how it's reacting. I can rotate it, see the eyelid if it's rotating. Yeah, that's good. Don't worry about the intersection of eyeball and the skin, because that's character has a big eye, so I don't worry. I'll fix to the corrective shapes. Okay. Okay, I rename the outer eye because that has a glass material that can pass the light to the pupil. So remember the eye has 2 shaders. Okay. I go back to the object mode there, and I will try to symmetrize. I make sure that the inner eye has the influence of 1. Okay, I switch to the rendering view. Let's see how the outer eye can react. Seeing that's good. So I'll go to the edit mode and I can select all those bones, and I want to align it to the z-axis so that all of those bones can work with the same axis. So yes, we switch to the global z-axis. So if we turn the axis on for the bone, you can see the direction of the bones. Okay, that's good. Okay, after done with the eyelid rigging, so now I can symmetrize to other parts. For the right part, so I press symmetrize. Okay, now we go for the object mode, and I go to rename the eyeball with the respective index. So I press F2 and I can call inner eye dot R. So with capital R. So I can select the image and white painting. So you can see when we go to the pose mode, with the edit mode, I can select the eyeball and I go to the vertex group and I can go to find the eyelig.r and I assign the weight to 1. So when I select the armature and I go to the pose mode, I can select the eyeball control and I can move with it. It seems that we are weight correct. So we are going to assign the weight to the eyelid of the right and fix the weight of the eyelid of the right. So let's go to the fix of the weights. So I select first I change to the object mode. And I can select the armature and next select with the mesh and I go to the weight paint. So I can select the right top eyelid and try to fix the weight. So we add the weight, we can show the wireframe, so we can add the weight following the topology. So keep adding the weight. And I'll select the lower eyelid and try to add the weight there. So I keep pushing and add the weights till you're satisfied with the weights. Okay. Seems nice. Okay, back to the object mode. and I can select the armature. Now it's time I want to create the control that can track the eyeballs of each eyeball. So now I can select the eyeball control and I can press Shift D. Let's increase the size of our working space. Press Shift D and I can push aside. That can be our eyeball tracker.l. So let's go to the F2 and try to rename it. iTrack.l, and I can switch off the deformation versus non-deformable. So to control the direction, the track of the direction of this eye, so I press Shift and let's select the eyeball, and I press Ctrl Shift C, a shortcut for constraint, and I want to have a dumped track constraint. So when I do that, let me select this one, and I can check this one so you cannot to remove the loads of overlays, and I press G. You can see that's tracked nicely. You see, when I put there, it tracks. There it tracks. That's what we needed. So maybe I can select this one and I press Alt G at okay. So you see that has a track D. Select this one and I switch off. When I press G, you see that it's track. It tracks my eyeball nicely. So what I need there, I need when it's tracked there, and the eyelid must follow the movement of the eyeball movement. So what's I need there? I need to go there to those control there, and I want to, when this moves and this bone of the eyelid moves, so I press this first, Shift and let's select this, and I press Shift Control C, and I go copy rotation. So in order this eyelid to follow the eyeball, I need to select the eyeball first, and I press Shift and I select this for the eyelid, Shift Control C, and I copy rotation of this one. So we change this from this space to world space to local space, and then the owner to the local space, like that. Let's go with this control. When I move this one, and the eyelid also move, it moves the eyelid also, so but it moves, so with the same influence we need to lower the influence of this movement, so it will still lag behind. So I can change the influence maybe to 0.35 maybe, and try to see through. and I press G and I rotate this. It seems that's follow, but it's like behind. That is what we needed. So let me turn off the overlay so that you can see nicely. And I press G, you can see that the eyelid follow the movement of it. That is what we need. So we can make it for the lower eyelid also to have the same characteristics. So I can go back there and allow the overlays, then go for the pose mode, and I will select first this one, and let's select this one there, Ctrl Shift C, we copy rotation there, and for this we change this to the local space, and this to the local space. Okay, so let's see, when I rotate this, when I track this to the eyeball to the other direction, it will also follow, but the lower eyelid move very fast. With the movement of this, we need to like to the lower eyelid to be like behind, so we'll go there and reduce the influence of this bone there, maybe to this, no bad. So we can see there, press G, let's see, you see, this is what we need to create for this. Okay, maybe this mesh looks heavy. Let's uncheck for the subdivision before. The subdivision be after the binding. So let me switch off first the subdivision. We'll leave when we are about to render it. So but for now, for our experiments, let's keep our rig very manageable. Press G, you see when I move this, like when the eyelid follow. That is what we needed there. So let me go back to the Alt G to the movement to reset it, and we go back to the object mode and I select all the bones there, and I go to the edit mode. I select all these bones and I want to symmetrize it to other side there. So let's see if the symmetrizing move with the all constraints we have created. So let's go to the pose mode, and when I select this one, nothing has done. So we needed to add the constraints again as what we did there. So after doing this, after symmetrizing, let's add the constraints back again. So we needed this one to be a target, a tracker of this eyeball. So first select the eye tracker control to this one, we press to this eyeball, to this eye control, press Ctrl Shift C, and we say we go to dumpty track. So that's when I move this one, also the eye follow. So now we need this when we move stage, and then this when we move this one, the top eyelid also follow. So what we need there, we need to select this one and this eyelid control, Shift Ctrl C, we add a copy rotation. So whenever we rotate this one, it has a track there eyelid. I need to go to this constraint and allow this to the local space, and this to the local space. You see? You can see now when I move this one there, it will follow the eyelid, it follow the movement of the eyeball. That is what we needed. But the movement is, it's move with the same movement with the eye. So we need to lower back the influence so that it will be like behind it. And I can do also for this lower eyelid. So I first select this one, and let's select this one. I press Ctrl Shift C and the copy rotation there, and we change this one to the local space and this to the local space as we did it for the top. Now I can reduce the influence also of this bone. Now it will follow, but it will lag behind a bit. So you can see when I move this like this, also the eyelid move with the correspondent eyeball tracking. We need to also this control to have independent control of this eyelid also. So we'll change this from replace to the add, so that if I put add, you can see that I can rotate this eyelid at R, clear the rotation, and we'll allow this also to add, and we can do also for other side of the eye. So I press this one, press this one to this one, Shift Ctrl C, and I dump track to this one, and I select this one, Shift select this one, Shift Ctrl C, and I copy rotation this one, and I change this to local, and this one to local, and reduce the influence of it, maybe somewhere there, and I select this, and let's select this with Ctrl Shift C and a copy rotation, and I can change this to the local space and this to local space, and I can reduce the influence of each somewhere there. So in order to work independent, we need to change this from replace to add, so that even this bone can have its control of its weight. And this one also we need to change to replace from replace to the add. So that's that. So we can see now, if I want to track all those eyeball to follow the one tracker. So I will go there to the edit mode and select this one, select this bone, Shift select this bone, and I press Shift S. I say cursor to the selected, that's a secret to the selection to the middle of it, and I press Shift A to add another bone, and I can press number 3 to see through, and a G, I can align this one there. I can move the very front there, and I'll select this and this, and let's select this one. I say Ctrl P and keep offset. That means this bone, it will be the control of these two bones there, and this bone will be a child of this one there. Ctrl P, we keep offset. So when I go back to the pose mode, you can see when I select this bone there, and I press G. Seems that it will follow the eyeballs and it track nicely. So to see it through nicely, maybe I can remove the overlay there, and I can press G to see how it's. Let's look. This is what we wanted to create for the eye ball track and eyelid supporting the tracking movement. This is what we needed there. So this is the end of the tutorial for the eyeball track control. And next tutorial I'll teach how to control the iris or the pupil of these eyes. So that's when it will react to the lights. The pupil decreases its size while it's moved from the light. It will increase the size of the pupil or dilation. So till next time, 3D Code Academy, ciao.